A very good afternoon and welcome to this edition of Market View. It's 2 p.m. Central African time and it's a Tuesday. We are locked in for another 30 minutes of sharp analysis, critical conversations, and the numbers that move the markets. First up, global trade redefined. The International Trade Center, it has introduced e-ping. It calls it a digital tool that is designed to cut through the red tape of international trade regulations. But how does this platform really position Eswatini's exporters for success? We're going to hear from Viane Lesafre. She's a market analyst at ITC. And then we'll hear some chime-ins from Thandeka Dlamini of the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority, as well as Jabulani Mkonda from the Ministry of Agriculture to give us a regulatory's POV in this whole development. They will unpack what this really means for businesses that are navigating complex global market. And then an exciting innovation as an economic engine type of interview today, where the Innovators Association of Eswatini, the IAE, leading the charge towards a knowledge-based economy. But can it truly turn ideas into industries? We're going to sit down with Jose Rego, chairperson of the IAE. He's going to explore with us whether Eswatini really has what it takes to compete in the innovation space. And finally, we break down the numbers, what matter: Wall Street, European markets, mainland China, commodities, currencies, and a deep dive into the JSE as well as the Eswatini Stock Exchange. Economist Sanelus Bia will make sense of all the trends, the risks, and all the opportunities shaping the financial landscape today. A fast-paced 30-minute, high-impact discussions that we're going to have, but let's get straight into it by looking at some of the business news today. Our first story, navigating international trade regulations, is no small feat, but rather a new digital tool, e-ping, is changing the game. Now, the International Trade Center, known as the ITC, has rolled out training for businesses on this cutting-edge platform that is designed to give them seamless access to import requirements for markets across the globe. Speaking at the workshop hosted at Sibane Sami Hotel, Viane Lesafre, a market analyst, at ITC, described e-ping as a global intelligence hub, a platform that keeps governments, businesses, and academia, all of them informed about regulatory changes that are affecting trade, from sanitary and other measures really to technical barriers to trade, known as TBT. e-ping is putting rather a vital information at the fingertips of those who need it most. Let's listen.
e-ping is a notification system for the regulatory changes. So whenever a country changes their regulation on SPS and TBT, the measures that are linked to the product, then there is a notification sent through e-ping. epingalert.org is a URL. It is free of access, and you can register to receive notification whenever something changes for your products in the market where you export your product. e-ping is important for Eswatini traders because it will allow them to keep always informed about the regulations. Whenever something changes in the destination market, if they are registered to e-ping, they are going to know the change in SPS and TBT measures. So it's, it helps them by having a very easy tool to use, easy to set, so that whenever something happens, they are going to receive an email and be informed about the change. So it will impact the economy of Eswatini by reducing the trade costs that are inherent to any problem that we have when we export the product and we are not compliant. So what we try to do with e-ping is to maintain the product of Eswatini at the export compliant with the regulation of the other markets. So we are more working to tackle obstacles to trade before they occur and not after they occur. So we try to anticipate what could be the issue by registering to e-ping and always ensure that the products from Eswatini are compliant with the changes in other regulations.
But of course, no discussion on trade regulations would be complete without hearing from those that are working at the forefront of policy and compliance. Now, from ensuring Eswatini's exports meet international standards to helping businesses navigate complex trade requirements, regulatory bodies play a pivotal role in shaping the country's global trade footprint. Now, let's listen to Thandeka Dlamini, who joined the conversation. She's the manager of external trade promotion at the Eswatini Investment Promotion Authority, as well as Jabulani Mkonda, the plant protection officer at the Ministry of Agriculture. They share their insights on what e-ping means for Eswatini's businesses and the broader regulatory landscape.
Before businesses export to the world out there, they must know these requirements and they must adhere and comply to these requirements. And therefore, in order to reduce costs of actually getting out there and find out, imagine you are sending your product to a far market from Eswatini, and when your product gets there, you find that there has been changes to the requirements. So therefore, they cannot enter that country unless they adhere to the requirements or comply. So what happens to your product is that you either have to import it back to Eswatini or you have to destroy it before it enters that market. So we encourage businesses to avoid those costs because it is highly costly. We've had situations where businesses are forced to destroy their product because it's much more costly to import it back. And we encourage businesses then to say this e-ping platform that is an initiative by ITC, the World Trade Organization and the United Nations. We encourage businesses to check for new regulations that may be applicable to their product. They can check for also updated, because some of the regulations, they can be updated. Maybe there's an element there's a measure that is updated, and therefore you should be aware of these requirements before you send your product to the market.
Okay. Our role as regulators for us is to promote the sharing of information or from government to the private sector, which are our producers. So we are expected to convey information to the producers regarding changes in regulations or changes in legislation that are coming from other countries. So our role also is to make sure that these export consignments conform with the standard that the importing country is expecting from those consignments. So we make sure that these particular products are tested, are inspected, and we also make sure that the quality is of the highest order so that it is according to what the importing country has stated in the import condition. So another role that we play is to disseminate information, because we understand that not all the producers can have access to these changes in regulation in a timely manner. So as soon as we receive the changes or the notification of the changes, our role is to share that information as quickly as possible to the producers so that they can adjust their production systems, their production processes, and the agrochemicals that they use, because some of these harmful organisms or harmful effects that the exporting country might not be interested in.
Right, that is how we cap off our news segment. We'll go for a net break. We return with Jose Rego. We discuss everything the Innovators Association of Eswatini is doing right now to really push the digital landscape of Eswatini.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.sz. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406 7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
You're still watching Market View. This is the Tuesday edition. Thank you for staying with us. Now, the Innovators Association of Eswatini is at the very heart of Eswatini's transformation into a knowledge-based economy with a firm grip on innovation, entrepreneurship, as well as strategic partnerships. Now, the association is not just fostering creativity, but it is actively redefining the country's economic future, from supporting bold new ideas to bridging the gap between government and industry. The IAE is shaping opportunities that will drive progress as well as prosperity. But the big question then becomes, what does this mean really for aspiring entrepreneurs, and how does Eswatini position itself as a hub of innovation in the region? Joining us live in studio to unpack it all, Jose Rego, chairperson of the Innovators Association of Eswatini. Good afternoon, welcome to the program. Really excited for this conversation because me and you have met, but we had really short time to really discuss this development in particular. But let's start maybe by contextualizing the work that you do. I'll give you, let's say, a minute for an elevator pitch, if you like. Just a minute, Jose. What is the Innovators Association of Eswatini, and why does it matter now more than ever?
Thank you for this platform, Mr. Nmalun. So I'd like to just take it back a few years ago when the UNDP of Eswatini and the Eswatini government decided that it's important to actually put some context together on how innovation should work. The vision was in 2014 when we came together and assisting these two bold movements by the two entities on how to bring together innovation, entrepreneurship, and youth development and empowerment. The plan from way back then was to harness what we call the the demographic dividend, which is how essentially, how does a country tap into the economic prowess of its youth? As the youth transitions to a different part of the economy, which is now the active laborers, how do you tap into that potential and make it work? As we go through all these problems economically and socially, innovation at the heart of solving problems. That's what innovation is. And innovation is where costs are taken down and things are done in a more efficient and in a more productive way. So innovation has been very important for all countries that have moved from developing to developed statuses. And how we found it to be best as an association is to make it easy for innovators to collaborate and associate and actually solve problems that are contextually in their spheres. I'll give you an example of problems that we face as young people today. Access to information, which is really what the knowledge economy is about. That's what the IAE is trying to foster as a collaborative enterprise or association or organization with both public sector, private sector, and the youth.
It's quite interesting. You speak about 2014. I believe that is, what, 11 years now?
Yeah.
And you speak about how innovation has been critical for nations to move, to transition from developing to developed status. And yet, you look at 2014, this is 2025, we are still developing.
Yeah.
And now we hear about this catchy phrase, knowledge-based economies. It sounds like a grand vision. I want you to talk to me about it. What are some of the tangible steps that the Kingdom of Eswatini is taking to move us from concept to reality?
Well, the knowledge-based economy is essentially the medium to which the locals in a country can tap into the information that they generate amongst themselves. If you look around us, our society is driven by what you know. From when you get up in the morning, you must know what time to get to a place you're going to something as basic as how do you get something done like registering a company. If you don't know these simple steps and actually know how to go about solving these problems, you tend to have a barrier to getting things done. So if you now bring the cost to access information down to a point where anyone, anywhere, anytime can have access to critical information, you're more likely to bring down the cost of getting things done themselves. So in our case, we believe that the most important information in this country is how to get things done with government. The public sector is the most important sector because that's where everything centralizes. Absolutely. From the time you're born to the time you get your first vaccine shot, to the time you get your first ID, to your first driver's license, if you don't lose them, all the way up until you retire in life. Yeah. You go through what we call life events. And each life event requires that you touch base with the public sector or a public service office. Right. Unfortunately, we tend to not know certain things about how to get things done with government. So with the Ministry of ICT's bold vision to bring all information to the forefront, in fact, every other ministry is prioritizing this part of their service improvement. We believe that if all information can be accessible at the fingertip, then you can imagine that the cost for you to travel from where you come from, be it in Nhlangano, Eswatini, Pofaneni, to get a service done, it's easier now when you have information in the palm of your hand. Yeah. So bring those costs down, start seeing what the changes will be when you can now save on costs, you can now save on travel, and you can get things done faster. We believe that's one way that the knowledge-based economy can be actually tangible in our society. And
we need more than just, what Mr. Inati called the biggest gig in town, more than just government in your hand. And by the way, which you have indirectly just endorsed right now. Yes. There's roadblocks. Yes. To, obviously coming up with more ideas or rather concepts like government in your hand, which we need, urgently right now. Let's talk about that, innovation, which is more than just ideas. What are some of the biggest roadblocks right now that innovators as well as entrepreneurs in Eswatini are currently experiencing or facing? And how does the IAE want to help them in terms of breaking through?
That's an actually interesting question, because just yesterday we were at the Ministry of Commerce and Industry and Trade's consultation with stakeholders at the UNDP. Yeah. It was hosted by the Ministry and UNDP, facilitated by Mr. Zizwe Vilane.
The Citizens Economic Empowerment and Regulations.
Yes,
gotcha.
Yes, that's the one. So in that conversation, we were just exploring what the real challenges are in this sector, especially ICT for our context. And the policies that are currently in place are sort of outdated in the extent that there are no ways of collaborating right now that are clear. I'll make a reference to the current RSTP Act of 2023. That's where everything is meant to centralize as a progressive direction in technology. But in implementing it, now we have to come around to the actual mediums of how to go through procurement, of how to go through partnerships, of how to go through regulating how technology must be moved from the concept of what an innovator or a thinker, a creative, comes up with, all the way down from prototyping the product to developing it, to putting it into the market, to getting the resources, to putting it out, and then getting it to be adopted. The adoption part is also critical. So we came across a couple of these stumbling blocks, but the outcome of it was positive because we got to see some of these contributions that would actually change how innovation can be done. For one, if you consider that innovators do need to be together and be in an environment that allows them to innovate without any hindrances, that's something that the public sector is responsible for in facilitating, because they are actually the centerpiece of the country. So that's one way we look at it. Yeah. And as for the Innovators Association of Eswatini, we're intentional about the partnerships we're creating. We're intentional about the strategies we are part of. For one, we are looking to really play a big role in skills development, in capacity building, in promotion of what government is working on. Yeah. As far as we innovate, we also want to see consumption and adoption being a centerpiece of how we go forward together.
I know archaic policies has been one of the biggest gripes that you have with our local context, particularly because they really do not foster collaboration. And I'm happy that you're intentional about, being in these rooms where these conversations are had to inform policy. And perhaps we want to take a moment right now to applaud the Ministry of Commerce for this Citizens Economic Empowerment Act and the regulations right now, the work that they are doing. It's going to be critical, but I want us to get into this age-old debate, which is, should government government take a hands-on or hands-off approach when it comes to fostering innovation? Where does Eswatini strike the balance here?
That's a really big debate, and we hear it from all sides of the spectrum. This is government's job. When government wants to do something and they make a bold vision like an NDP, which
Right.
is just moving the country forward in a period of like five years, the citizens in most cases tend to say, well, this is government's job now, let's not even meddle with it. But people in government are citizens as well. So first and foremost, we are all citizens, and this is all where we should come together and work together. The question of whether government should be hands-on or hands-off, things like the policies, government's main role is to structure the infrastructure, legal infrastructure, and the policies that enable the citizens to collaborate and work productively together. So their approach, from my perspective or from where we come from, is that we need them to understand what needs to be done at the grassroots level, which is what are the policies that can be improved on, and how can they be passed around to the country and to international partners.
Do you get the sense that they're doing that?
We do see the sense of it.
Okay.
We do see the intentions.
Okay.
Where it then falls short, and I think this is something that everyone can attest to.
Right, yeah.
We have cabinets and cabinets of policies that have been drafted, but then this is where the gap then comes in. There's policies and strategies and legal frameworks, and then the public doesn't get to know of them effectively. So when you have this gap, the information asymmetry, then even if government were to say we want to go fully digital in the next 4 years or 2 years or 3 years, if the public doesn't know how to go about participating in that, then you have a disconnect.
Yeah.
There's no collaboration now. You know something that I don't know, and you intend on something being done in your way, but you want me to work with you on that, and I can't now participate in that that vision, that future.
Yeah.
So the information asymmetry, which is again goes back to the
Knowledge-based economy, yeah.
and the information society, information must be easily accessible. That's how the best economies in the world are built.
Okay.
Information is at the fingertip.
I'm afraid we have eaten away from our last segment, but if my producers are going to punish me, I will take that with an open heart. So thank you so much, Jose. We understand that Jose is, really advocating for quite a lot here in terms of, innovation and our digital landscape. Archaic policies that it should be changed, but he's also acknowledging that work is being done, it is being addressed. The knowledge-based economy that should also be addressed very, very urgently. I'm afraid we've run out of time. Let's go straight into our market analysis.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Let's get straight into our market analysis now with Sanele Sbia, our economist who joins us virtually. Sanele, I'm afraid time has been against us today, but really sure that you will give us a full sense of the numbers today that we are seeing. Please give us your insights. What is happening?
Thank you, Mr. Numalo. So we're just going to do a quick roundup of our markets today. So in the US, we're seeing that positive note on that rally of that Tesla stock and that NVIDIA stock. The tech-heavy indices seem to be moving in an upward trajectory. And, given that calm in terms of those tariffs, we did see those increases in the numbers with the Dow Jones Industrial Average adding some 597 points, the Nasdaq adding some 404 points, and the Standard & Poor's Index adding that 100 points there. And then moving on to Europe, what we notice in Europe is that relative calm within the UK and also within France. So what we're seeing in London is the fact that the growth figures aren't promising, but there is that strong rally in terms of those energy stocks and in terms of those industrials, that military industrial complex with the whole euphoria around increases in spending within the European economy on that spending on defense stocks. But what we're seeing again in Germany is there is that positive consumer confidence, and we do know that there are moves within Germany to actually increase that spending limit or that deficit limit. So now that's going to offer a bit of scope in terms of the overall fiscal policy within the German economy. And then France again, we've seen it jump to 8100. That's because of that military industrial complex type of situation. And then moving on to Asia, what we're seeing right now, Asia responding to is that sudden shift in Trump's narrative in terms of his tariffs, moving, saying it's going to tax everyone who actually buys Venezuelan oil. And we know China buys quite a chunk of Venezuelan oil, and that's why we're seeing that recession in China, while we're seeing that steady outlook within Japan because they don't purchase much of Venezuelan oil. So when we move into South Africa again, that gold rally is really supporting the surge in terms of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange All Shares Index, adding some 442 points in today's trade. Purely because of that surge that we're seeing in terms of gold prices, and also because the government of national unity seems to be holding on, and we are moving on to budget execution probably in the next week or so. And then when we see in the Eswatini Stock Exchange, there hasn't been any movement. Moving into the commodities, gold continues to surge, and the price of Brent crude oil continues to surge. I mean, we saw earlier in today's trade that leaked security conversation between the Pentagon and Vice President Vance, threatening to invade or bomb Yemen if they continue housing those Houthi rebels in them. So now oil is responding a bit to that because it's adding to the geopolitical uncertainties and risks, pulling the entire Middle East region into complete disarray. And when you look at our currencies, given the fact that the dollar is weakening a bit, we can see that our currency seems to be on an upward surge, and also because of that gold rally, and we know that we are highly linked to a resource-based economy. So we are seeing those changes shifting up in both the euro against the euro and against the United States dollar, but losing really a bit against the Japanese yen, purely because, again, Japan is really out to show up the Japanese yen and ensure that the Japanese economy stays on the right growth trajectory. Thank you, Mr. Nzumalo.
Mr. Sbia, thank you so much for your insights. Always a pleasure having you on the program. That is our economist giving us his insights on the numbers that define the market today. Thank you for staying with us on the program. Have a good day. Bye-bye.